Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this regular called meeting of the Temple City Council for September 21st, 2023. Please rise as Robert Beeman leads us in the invocation, followed by our pledge, which will be led by City Secretary Jan Llewellyn.
Shall we bow and pray? Heavenly Father, we thank you, God, for just another day. We thank you, God, for just your grace and mercy that passes all of understanding, God. We just guard our hearts. Now, dear God, we ask you, God, that you will lead us and guide us in what needs to be done. We ask you, God, for the city council, God. We ask for the mayor. We ask everybody that's involved in the decision making to consult you first, God. Then after that, you will give them the direction. You ask us not to lean on our own understanding, but acknowledge you in all our ways, and you shall direct our path. We thank you, God, for health and mercy, and we give you peace and joy. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you both very much. We'll move on to public comments. Citizens who wish to address the council on any matter may do so. We ask you step to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Please limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes, and please understand that no discussion or final action will be taken. I have a couple of folks that have signed up tonight. Chris Floor.
All right, thank you. Mayor Davis, council members, staff, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I'm here to express gratitude. I know that's somewhat unusual on that side of the microphone. My name is Chris Floor. I'm the vice president of the Belton Independent School District Board of Trustees. And today I had the opportunity to start my morning visiting 3 sites where we're pushing dirt. We're making a lot of projects happen. And one of those projects today was within the city of Temple limits at Lake Belton Middle School, where we are adding a new gym, adding new band facilities, new HVAC, really kind of expanding some of the interior finishings. And one of the things we shared with the community was the true spirit of partnership that we've experienced with the city of Temple, whether that's to get this particular project off the ground, or the project work that's happening at Poison Oak to get that road work done, or the partnership with the police department with our SROs. I just, on behalf of the board, I'm here to express our thanks in the partnership and the great things that are happening in the city of Temple. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Temple is unique in that we have so many school districts, that fall near or within our city limits. So the partnership with y'all is appreciated, and it does work very well. Thank you. Next up is Mr. Milton Hensley.
Mr. Mayor and the City Council, I want to appreciate y'all for what y'all did to me the last council meeting. I haven't got over it yet. Y'all are so sweet. The reason that Temple is a good place to live is because of the city. The city secretary, the city attorney provided a proclamation for the life chain that is going to be October the 1st, the first Sunday in October. And also the city park secretary provided me with a great amount of assistance in applying for the permit for the life chain. I want to thank y'all for these different things. People do not know how the city employees work unless they attend these meetings. To me, it is a privilege that we can get to come and learn what y'all do. And I want to thank you for it, each one of you. And have we found out when we're going to go visit that thing at HEB? Okay. I want to be there.
We have not forgotten you.
Thank you, Milton. It's good to see you. Yeah. All right, moving on to item 3 is consent agenda. All items that are listed on the consent agenda are to be considered routine by the city council and may be enacted in one motion. If discussion is desired by any council member, any item can be removed from the consent agenda at the request of that council member and be considered separately. Council and workshop, we discussed this and decided that there was nothing to be pulled. Has anything changed since then? All right. Very good. Then I will, council, entertain a motion on the consent agenda, which is items 3A through 3T.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented, items 3A through 3T.
I'll second it.
Have a motion by Councilmember Pilkington. We have a second by Mayor Pro Tem Walker. Council, please cast your vote.
Just me.
Always just me. I vote aye. Consent agenda passes 5 votes to 0. Moving on to the regular agenda. The first item is a public hearing to consider adopting an ordinance authorizing a rezoning request from general retail to planned development general retail to allow a mini storage warehouse and a reduced side yard setback of 4 feet on 3.648 plus or minus acres in the city of Temple, Bell County, Texas, addressed as 6705 State Highway 317. Mr. Chandler.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So here's a vicinity map to show you exactly where this proposed self-storage is located along 317, north of Tarver and of course, south of Adams. And so it's a 3.648 acre site. And as was mentioned, it's currently zoned general retail. In order to allow for self-storage, the planned development has been requested, which would keep the base zoning general retail, but pull that use down from a commercial zoning district. And the proposal includes 10 buildings totaling approximately 69,875 square feet. It will also include an office on the ground floor and then a live-in suite upstairs. They intend to have the manager, the on-site manager, live on site as well. The plat was approved in February of 2023. Wanted to point out, as you recall, it was tabled at the last meeting. The plan that they had shown and that I had up on the screen previously encroached into the rear setback, and the rear properties behind this site are single family. This is within the Sage Meadows subdivision. Staff would not support encroachment into that rear setback, which also would not have provided enough room to be able to meet buffering and screening requirements. So they have fixed it. They have actually found a win-win in which they could shave off about 7 feet of the buildings facing the single-family residential and add them to the buildings to the north because they had a wider drive aisle than they needed. So that's a win-win and won't negatively impact the neighbors. So here's the site. And so looking from the site north along 317, they have done quite a bit of site work and are ready. They've got a lot of materials out there. And so certainly they're anxious to hopefully get the zoning approved and then permitting approved. And so looking at the thoroughfare and trails master plan, of course, State Highway 317 is a major arterial. This property is not at a median cut along 317. So it'd be right in, right out, which is certainly very appropriate for a use like self-storage. It's a low traffic generating use. There's the existing 10-foot sidewalk already on 317. And looking at the Institute of Transportation Engineers manual that indicates what uses and types of development, how much traffic they generate. So whether you look at mini warehouse by square footage of buildings or by acreage, you're looking at a maximum of 171 daily trips. And so that is up and back. Also, or 129 if you just look at it by acreage. Either way, just for comparison's sake, a convenience store market would have 3,900 plus, just for a typical convenience store market in terms of number of trips. So 16 notices were sent out to property owners within 200 feet. One was received in agreement, and that's property owner to the south, a commercial property as well. However, 3 notices were received in disagreement from the single-family homeowners to the east. So staff recommends approval of the rezoning request with the following conditions: that the general retail base zoning shall be modified to allow the self-storage, the reduced side setback as was in the notice and the item description on the north, so not on the east, but just on the north, reduced to 4 feet. That is a future, as you may recall, mixed use, that portion being a retail development when it does develop. That's a multi-phased plan development on that side. Compliance with the site development plan, including the 10-foot rear setback on the eastern property line. Buffering and screening required per section 7.7 of the UDC. And there are some trees back there, and preservation of trees can count towards that. And then the last item, the applicants have agreed to limit their signage height for a freestanding sign to 8 feet, as opposed to 50 that could be allowed depending on where it's placed. So the Planning and Zoning Commission at the September 5th meeting voted 5-0 to recommend approval as well per staff recommendation. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chandler. Council, any questions for Mr. Chandler?
I think so. This is single story, right? It's not going vertical.
Yes, ma'am. Single story with the exception of the office.
And that's front facing 317.
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
Okay.
All right, this item is subject to a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this item may do so. We ask you step to the podium, state your name and address for the record, or raise your hand on the virtual platform. Nobody on the platform, nobody from the audience? All right, very good. I will close the public hearing. Council, is there any discussion on this matter? All right, there being none, I will entertain a motion on item 4.
I'll make a motion to approve item 4.
Second.
We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Walker. We have a second by Councilmember Long. Council, please cast your vote. Item 4 passes 5 votes to 0. I'm sorry, item 5 passes. No, sorry, item 4 passes 5 votes to 0. Moving on to the next item is the first reading and a public hearing to consider adopting an ordinance approving a rezoning request from light industrial to general retail on 0.1607 plus or minus acres situated in the Freeman Heights Edition, Lot 9, Block 2, and addressed as 10 North 27th Street. Mr. Chandler.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. And so you can see where this is located. Of course, 27th is a couple blocks east of 31st Street. And so it's between Adams and Central. It's 0.1607 acres. It has an existing home on site. If that home were to be damaged or or destroyed by a storm, for instance, they would not be able to rebuild in the light industrial zoning. So that is objective one with this rezoning. Objective two is also for at a time when future redevelopment does happen to make it more marketable, but also consistent with our various plans for this corridor. Surrounding properties are already zoned general retail, also two family and office two. And once again, the general retail just provides a little bit more flexibility for future plans if they decide to not keep it as single family residential. This is also within the Temple Independent School District. And so top left-hand corner is the home on the site. And then you can see surrounding properties. And then, of course, Adams Avenue and Central are major arterials. And so really looking at the right, and also the future development plan within our comprehensive plan identifies this area as corridor mixed use. General retail is much more appropriate for that than light industrial. Then also looking at the neighborhood plan, the central neighborhood plan, you can see that this is proposed as future retail buildings that are pushed up close to the street so that the parking is more internal. And so 13 notices were sent out to property owners within 200 feet, and only one response was received. That was a property owner immediately to the west who responded with approval. So staff recommends approval of the request to downzone this from light industrial to general retail. And Planning and Zoning Commission recommended unanimously at the September 5th meeting approval as well.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Item 5 is subject to a public hearing. And again, we ask anybody that wishes to speak, step to the podium, state your name and address, or raise your hand on the platform. Nothing on the platform, nobody in the audience? All right. Very good. Thank you. Then I will close the public hearing. And councils, anybody have questions for Mr. Chandler? Nothing? Very good. Then council, I will entertain a motion on item 5.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve item 5 as presented by Mr. Chandler.
Second.
Have a motion by Councilmember Long. We have a second by Councilmember Pilkington. Council, please cast your vote. Item 5 passes 5 votes to 0. Item 6 is the first reading in a public hearing to consider adopting an ordinance authorizing the release of 0.31 acres right-of-way easement legally described as being attractive land out of the Nancy Chance Survey, abstract number 5, Bell County, Texas, and being part of a 3.713 acre tract of land described as tract 2 by a deed to the city of Temple, recorded in document number 2017-029277, real property records in Bell County, Texas. Mr. Nuttall.
Thank you, Mayor, and I apologize that I always make these long, confusing items. So this is an abandonment of a right-of-way. The Transportation Code, Chapter 311, provides the municipality authority over the streets and alleys. And 311.007 allows a municipality to vacate, abandon, or close a street or alley, but does require a public hearing to be held, which is why we're here today. The abandonment request, this is where it is. It is behind, I think that's the Don Ringler deal there. And it currently ends in a cul-de-sac, but we have a lift station just to the south. And here you can see a little bit better the dotted line that goes all the way to the left there. That is the public utility easement that is not being abandoned, which carries a wastewater line. And goes to that lift station. The area to be abandoned is 0.31 acres right there at the cul-de-sac. And what essentially is happening here is that it'll be a realignment of the road and an extension of that road to the Bend of the River properties, so for future development. So the staff recommendation is to approve the abandonment of the unimproved alley, subject to the public utility easement that currently exists.
Thank you, Mr. Nuttall. Item six is subject to a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak, please step to the podium or raise your hand on the platform. All right, there being none of either, I will close the public hearing. Council, any questions for Mr. Nuttall? Pretty straightforward. Okay. Council, I'll entertain a motion on item 6.
Move to approve item 6 or
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion by Councilmember Pilkington. We have a second by Councilmember Long. Council, please cast your vote. Item 6 passes 5 votes to 0. Item 7 is the first reading and a public hearing to consider adopting an ordinance amending the conditions for receiving certification and other additional payments for police officers. Ms. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Chapter 143 of the Local Government Code provides that the city council can establish by ordinance payments in addition to their base pay for police officers, also firefighters. Those payments would be for things like advanced education or achieving advanced certification in their field, fitness incentives, shift differentials, working special assignments, things like that. The current ordinance was adopted a couple of years ago in August of 2021. We took a number of different ad pay ordinances, combined them, consolidated them into a single ordinance, and repealed all the previous ordinances. The proposed amendment would authorize, the current ordinance denies certification pay to probationary officers who have achieved TCOL certification and educational incentives, things that would qualify them for an educational incentive otherwise if they weren't probationary. What is recommended is that pursuant to the 2023 meet and confer agreement with the Temple Police Association, that you amend the ordinance to allow for incentive pays for those probationary officers for TCOL certification and educational incentive.
Thank you, ma'am. This item is also subject to a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak, please step to the podium and state your name or raise your hand on the platform. Okay, there being none of those, then council, I'll ask if you have any questions for Ms. Rodriguez. Very good. There being no questions, then did I close the public hearing? Okay, you never know. Then council, I'll entertain a motion on item 7.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve item 7 as presented by Ms. Rodriguez.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Councilmember Long and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Walker. Council, please cast your vote. Item 7 passes 5 votes to 0. Item 8 is a first reading and a public hearing to consider adopting an ordinance amending the conditions for receiving certification and other additional payments for fire officers. Ms.
Okay,
Rodriguez.
similar to the previous item, the current proposal is for an amendment to the ordinance that allows for certification pay for firefighters. Similar to the previous ordinance, this ordinance allows for certification pay for some of the same types of incentives and achievements for firefighters. The current ordinance was amended in 2021 to incorporate a bunch of various ordinances that established certification pay for firefighters and repealed all the previous ordinances. The proposed amendments would incorporate changes that were the result of the recent civil service pay study. That pay study recommended the addition of pay for 2 positions designated as the deputy fire marshal and another position designated as the training officer, and would give assignment pay for those 2 positions. It would also amend the special operations assignment pay to establish 2 different levels for firefighters who have different combinations of certifications.
Thank you. Item 8 is subject to a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this item may do so. Please step to the podium or raise your hand. No one has anything to say tonight. Meeting's moving right along, though. All right, very good. Then if there's none, I will close the public hearing. Council, any questions for Ms. Rodriguez? All right, there being none, council, I'll entertain a motion on item 8.
Item 8 as presented.
Second.
Have a motion by Councilmember Grant. We have a second by Councilmember Pilkington. Council, please cast your vote. Item 8 passes 5-0. Moving on to item 9 is to consider adopting a resolution approving the final plat of North Ridge Townhomes, a 5.58 plus or minus acre, 65 lot, 3 block, 4 tracks residential subdivision with a developer requested exception to the UDC section 8.2.1 and 8.1.3 related to cul-de-sacs and dead-end fire apparatus roads, and the UDC section 8.3 related to park fees and land dedication located in the city of Temple, Bell County, Texas, addressed as 1930 North P Ridge Road. Mr. Chandler.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. And as you have deduced, this is before you because of 2 exceptions to our subdivision code. This is for a development that you can see in the vicinity map. It is on the west side of North P Ridge. And so it's 5.58 acres, a total of 65 townhome lots with 4 tracts. And so it consists of 12 clusters of townhomes with 4 to 6 dwelling units each. In terms of the tracts that you can see here, tracts A through D, that would all be maintained by the HOA. A is for drainage and detention. B is the dumpster location. C, future street connection to the south. So that is labeled as Gaucho Drive and would provide immediate emergency access if needed, but if development occurs to the south, that road would also be extended. And then tract D in the southeast corner of the property is a proposed private park, which is one of the exceptions before you. You may recall that it was a little over a year ago, this property was rezoned to planned development multifamily 1. And so the plan development includes the site plan, the conditions for fencing, landscaping, entry feature, kind of decorative feature, variations for the building elevations and colors, just so we don't have the same building one after another. Also a minimum of 2.5 parking spaces per dwelling unit, a playground equipment, sidewalks, and a pedestrian or trail connection to the west into Mesa Ridge subdivision. The plat demonstrates general compliance with the plan development site plan, which is shows all of the elements that I described, and that's in the bottom left-hand corner. And so looking at access, circulation, and drainage, North P Ridge is a community collector on the thoroughfare plan. And this is a condition, or excuse me, a capital improvement project that is under construction now. It includes 70 feet of right-of-way, 3 travel lanes, which includes a middle continuous turn lane, and also a 10-foot shared use path on the east side for hike and bike connectivity. There's only one entrance for the development, and 2 interior streets, both proposed as local streets, and then a T intersection terminating at Gaucho Drive on the western edge. And so the second exception, in addition to the private park instead of public park fees, is that our code limits a dead end or cul-de-sac to 25 residential lots. And so because these are narrower lots, 65 townhomes, and certainly that exceeds the 25 lots. However, there's also a distance requirement, a maximum of 1,000 feet without having another intersection. This exceeds that requirement. This is less than 1,000 feet. So it's really just about the number of units that that can be along this street for fire access without a turnaround or an intersection. So in terms of the other exception for park fees, if they were to pay the fees at $225 per dwelling unit, they would owe $14,625. Once again, they are requesting to be able to turn that tract into a private park. And you can see a layout to the right. And so the construction costs, or at least the amenities that are included, you know, in addition to sidewalks, but a playscape, a dog run, kind of a dog park area, are estimated to cost $67,500, which obviously is much more than the park fees if they were to pay that. So staff does support this exception. The Development Review Committee reviewed this on June 5th of this year, and it was determined to be administratively complete or filed by statute on August 24th. This project is in the Belton Independent School District. The exceptions, including the length of street without a fire turnaround, is supported by staff and specifically by the fire marshal. Should have pointed that out earlier. And so staff is recommending approval of the final plat with the 2 exceptions previously described. And so did P and Z at their September 5th meeting by a vote of 5-0. And I'm available to answer any questions.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Chandler. Council, anything for Mr. Chandler?
Mhm.
Could you head back to whatever, where the slide where you talked about Gaucho Drive, the cul-de-sac, the number of units,
Mhm.
and what happens if Gaucho Drive then opens because this land down here is
Mhm.
developed?
Right. So, so Gaucho Drive, of course, in case of a fire or some other emergency, would serve as a turnaround to be able to get in and out, or actually get out of the neighborhood.
But into empty land?
No, just within the T.
Oh, okay, I
Within
see
the
what
T.
you mean.
Yes, ma'am. And to the south, and that is tract C, that would be a future,
Development.
if development occurred down there, when it does at some point, then a street would have to be extended. Gaucho would have to be extended by that developer. In the meantime, that will also serve as emergency access even before development.
And what were the numbers again? The numbers of units
So
that?
25 is the maximum per code. So there are essentially two criteria in the code. One is the number of units. So 65 obviously exceeds the 25 max. However, there's also the length, maximum of 1,000 feet, and this is 900 and something feet. So because these are townhomes and smaller lots, I think it was weighed by the fire marshal that this is not an issue. It's an
And
exception. that can
because
be
also
supported.
because the turnaround at the T
Yes, ma'am.
meets the fire marshal's needs.
Yes, exactly.
And Gaucho is a presently, or will be presently, a local street.
Yes,
Internal street.
that is
And
correct.
if it extends, if development comes and Gaucho extends, then the issue of the turnaround for the fire marshal goes away because it is extended and it will be a longer street of,
Sure. I mean, so emergency vehicles would still have that same turnaround option, but they would also have an additional access
okay,
point that
All right, I see.
would connect also to Pea Ridge.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And you wouldn't allow that southern part to develop and have that as the only entrance, so it's going to give it a loop later on.
Right.
So,
Does the present owner own the land to this, I guess,
No.
south? No.
Yeah, just this 5+ acres.
Council, anything else for Mr. Chandler? Nothing? All right. There being no more additional questions, council, I'll entertain a motion on item 9.
to approve item 9 as presented with the exceptions.
Second that motion.
I have a motion by Councilmember Pilkington. We have a second by Councilmember Long. Council, please cast your vote. Item 9 passes 5 votes to 0. Moving on to item 10 is to consider adopting a resolution finding that 0.1435 acre right-of-way tract and a 0.0345 acre temporary construction easement located on properties addressed as 611, 613, and 615 East Avenue C, Temple, Bell County, Texas, are necessary for the construction of the Avenue C expansion project and authorizes the use of eminent domain to condemn the property pursuant to Government Code Sections 2206.053. Ms. Demers.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Sorry, the attorneys give you difficult items to read. So tonight I'm here to ask for authorization for eminent domain on a property for the Avenue C project. The improvements to Avenue C will include an expansion of the current pavement section, drainage conveyance, utility improvements, street lighting, landscaping, signage, monuments, and pedestrian facilities as well. It does require right-of-way from 28 properties. It did require the relocation of 12 residences and businesses. 24 of those properties have been acquired and all relocations have been completed. One property is currently going through eminent domain litigation, and tonight seeking authorization for eminent domain to acquire the remaining 3 rights-of-way from one property owner. This is an overall project sketch that shows the full extent of the project from Santa Fe Market Square all the way over to 24th Street. And the yellow square is the, I'm just going to say property. Its address is 3 properties and has 3 Bellcat IDs, but it's essentially one property. So the property is there in the yellow square. And here's a little better picture of it. It's a vacant lot. And so we need some right of way off of the front, 0.1435 acre, and then a temporary construction easement that's along the eastern boundary adjacent to the railroad tract. Like I said, they're all adjacent under the same ownership. So therefore they were surveyed and appraised as one tract. And if developed, would more than likely be utilized as one property. An appraisal was performed in December of 2019. At that time, just compensation was $9,688. An initial offer was made in February of 2020. Shortly after we made that offer, acquisition of these particular properties was placed on hold while we looked at the project design, reevaluated it, and that area that included those properties. Ultimately, what was decided was to remove some TCEs that were on the north side of Avenue C from the project scope. Those were the TCEs were the only interest needed on those particular properties. And in discussions, was determined that we could complete the project without needing to get those temporary construction easement. And so everything was kept other than those temporary construction easements as originally designed. So because of the time lapse, we did go ahead and reappraise this property in 2022, November. And just compensation was determined at that time to be $29,830, which you can see just in that 3 years, in that time span, how property prices increased. A revised offer for that amount was sent on May 18th. The owner did advise Stateside Right-of-Way Services that they were represented by an attorney. And so therefore communications were directed towards the attorney. We never received a response. So therefore we went ahead and sent a final offer on July 26th of this year. And to date, we still have not received correspondence from the owner or the attorney, which would not expect it from the owner if they're represented by an attorney, but that's where we are today. So we're needing to go ahead and ask council to authorize eminent domain so that we can try to stay on our construction schedule for this project. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, ma'am. Council, any questions for Mr. Mears? Nothing? All right, council, I will entertain a motion on item 10, and there is required motion language at your desk.
Mayor, I seem to have in the past not been nominated to read these lengthy legal statements, so I'll do it again. For item 10, I move that the City of Temple approve resolution number 2023-0314-R and authorize the use of the power of eminent domain to acquire a 0.1435 acre right-of-way tract in fee simple, along with a 0.0345 acre temporary construction easement necessary for the construction of the Avenue C expansion project situated in the Maximino Moreno surveys, abstract 14, embracing a portion of lots 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, Block C, Crawford's Addition, an addition to the City of Temple, Bell County, Texas, according to the plat of record in volume 105, page 35, deed records of Bell County, Texas, and located on the properties addressed as 611, 613, 615 East Avenue C, Temple, Texas.
As usual, I wait and then I second it.
Easy road. Very good. Then we have a motion by Councilmember Long. And we have a second by Mayor Pro Tem Walker. Council, please cast your vote. Item 10 passes 5 votes to 0. Item 11 reads to consider adopting a resolution authorizing a construction contract with RT Schneider Construction Company LTD of Temple for the construction of South P Ridge Road improvements in the estimated amount of $5,699,206.38. Ms. Mason.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. Appreciate the opportunity to speak to you this evening. My name is Debbie Mason. I'm with the city's Public Works Engineering Division, and we're presenting tonight requesting for construction contract award for our South P Ridge Road CIP project. We're taking an existing 2-lane open ditch roadway section and improving it to 3 lanes, curb and gutter, drainage, and sidewalks. It starts up at the north end at Hogan Road, along Hogan Road, goes south for about a mile down to Poison Oak. We had our bid opening on August 24th. We had 6 bids. We went into the bid with an opinion of probable cost of a little over 6.7 million. Very happy to say that our low bid came in under that. With that being said, we'd like to request the construction contract award to RT Schneider Construction Company Limited in that amount of $5,699,206.38. And of course, we're here to answer any questions that you may have, as well as we have a representative, Miss Ashley Martinez with Kimley Horn here, if there are any other more difficult or technical questions.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Mason. Council, any questions for Ms. Mason? Nothing? Did a good job.
We love it that it's less than they anticipated.
Yes.
It's always
great.
good. It's always a good thing.
Very good. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Council, I will entertain a motion on item 11.
Well, Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve item 11 as presented.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Councilmember Long. We have a second by Mayor Pro Tem Walker. Council, please cast your vote. Item 11 passes with 4 votes yes, 0 votes no, and 1 abstention. Item 12 is to consider adopting a resolution appointing members to various city boards and commissions. Council, I know that you recall that we interviewed a number of applicants just last week, and we made the decision for those board appointments. So if I may, I'd like to read those folks that will be either reappointed or newly appointed to various boards. So on the Airport Advisory Board, we've decided to reappoint Tony Hale and Nick Steenson to fill expired terms ending September 30th, 2026. And we wish to appoint Jeremy Walters to fill an expired term ending September 30th, 2026. On the Animal Services Advisory Board, we'll reappoint Lance Cruz, Amy Strunk, and Susan Long to fill expired terms ending September 30th, 2026. On the Building and Standards Commission, we'll appoint Sam Avila as an alternate to fill an unexpired term ending March 31st, 2025. On the Citizens Police Advisory Commission, we'll reappoint Alan Lytle, Gary Smith, and Lydia Alaniz to fill expired terms ending September 30th, 2026. On the Civil Service Commission, we will appoint Brent Walker to fill an expired term ending September 30th, 2026. On the Emergency Services Advisory Board, Sandra Creech and Maria Uristi will be reappointed to fill expired terms ending September 30th, 2026. We'll appoint Stephen Fisher to fill an unexpired term ending September 30th, 2025. Appoints Suzanne Sinke to fill an expired term ending September 30th, 2026. On the Library Advisory Board, Lori Broughton has been appointed, and Amy Ellis will fill the unexpired term ending March 31st, 2024. On the Main Street Advisory Board, we'll appoint Bo Harvey as the RZ representative to fill an unexpired term ending March 31st, 2024. The Neighborhood Revitalization Advisory Board, Ms. Judy Morales and Andrew Blackwell will be appointed to fill unexpired terms ending March 31st, 2026. On the Planning and Zoning Commission, reappoint Daniel Jeans to fill an unexpired term ending September 30th, 2026. Appoint Jeremy Jurasic and Judy Morales to fill expired terms ending September 30th, 2026. On the Tax Increment Financing Reinvestment Zone Number 1, appoint Bo Harvey and Kelly Garcia and Tyler Johnson to fill expired terms ending September 30th, 2025. On the Zoning Board of Adjustments, Josh Welch will be appointed to fill an unexpired term ending March 31st, 2024. And Sam Guthrie will be appointed as an alternate to fill an unexpired term ending March 31st, 2025. So that's a lot. Council, have any questions or conversation around those appointments? No?
We should thank Jana. Jana just makes this such a pleasant experience.
It used to take all day. Now it just takes half a day. So thank you, Jana. All right, council, if there's no discussion on item 12, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve as the mayor read the appointments.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Pilkington. We have a second by Councilmember Grant. Council, please cast your vote. Item 12 passes 5 votes to 0. It is currently 5:56. Thank you all for attending, and this meeting is adjourned.